The next session is going to be a report out on the CARE pilot, and the facilitators will be Bruce Jacobs from Intermountain, CFC in Utah, and myself, Victoria Adams from the CFC overseas.
Roll video. Okay. I'm going to watch this little video real quick.
เขาจะได้อะไรถ้าเขาทำแบบนี้ทุกวันเขาจะไม่ได้อะไรเลยไม่ได้รวยขึ้นไม่ได้ออกทีวีไม่มีใครรู้จักไม่ได้มีชื่อเสียงที่มากขึ้นเพราะสิ่งที่เขาได้คือได้แค่ความรู้สึกได้เห็นความสุขได้เข้าใจได้ความรักได้ในสิ่งที่เงินซื้อไม่ได้ได้โลกที่สวยงามกว่าเดิมในชีวิตคุณอะไรคือสิ่งที่คุณต้องการมากที่สุด
So I just got a text from Keith, and it said there's no federal endorsement of the Thai life insurance company implied or anything. No. Just kidding, I didn't get a text from him. Today. So, real fast, if you have a seat at your table, will you raise your hand? They would like those who are standing in the back, just for safety reasons, to please find a seat by somebody who's got a seat available. There's seats up here by OPM. Don't all rush. Okay. Well, I wanted to start with that video. You may have seen it already in your Facebook news feed. What I think is unique and special about that is that young man is a happy young man, but you sense at some point that he starts to have a little bit of self-doubt. He starts to wonder a little bit, am I really making a difference in the world? And then, did you notice the look on his face when he saw that little girl in the school uniform? That's, I think, the moment when he realized that it was all worth it. And so what we're doing here with the CARE pilot is to try to help build that connection between the CFC contributor and the organizations and the recipients of their funds. Got the clicker here. Did I get too far?
Yeah.
Okay, they said hold it with one hand and click with the other. Okay. There are two, for those of us in the fundraising business, there are two aspects of fundraising. When all said and done, it boils down to attracting the donor and retaining the donor. And this pilot is on the second phase of that. It's more about retaining the donors that we've already attracted, because that's really important. I mean, we've seen from the slides and in recent experience that we've been hemorrhaging donors recently, and we need to focus our efforts not only on attracting and engaging, especially the younger upcoming donors, but the donors that we already have in the system. And so the charity auto response element, or CARE, it is an OPM-approved pilot program, and it's designed to provide to the CFC contributor an instant automatic feedback mechanism, so that as soon as they've made their pledge online, they get an email back that includes a thank you statement from the LFCC, and then thank you statements from the charities that they have designated to. And as part of that thank you statement, ideally, more information about what that charity intends to do with the donor's money. Okay, hold with one. Okay, and that's basically what this slide is all about. So the donor makes a pledge, they get that immediate feedback, and hopefully generates a positive feeling, thus a stronger connection with the charity. Because that's, the CFC is a wonderful mechanism of moving money from point A to point B, and it's efficient, it's effective, but what it hasn't always done great in the past is to build that connection between the donor and the end recipient of the funds. Now, this slide is basically just to let you know that, that this is based on science. I want to tell you a little bit about a study that was conducted back in 2011 at Harvard University. So we had some social scientists, really smart man by the name of Adam Grant and cohort of his. They wanted to study what motivates people, what gets people, especially in a work environment, to do a better job, to be more effective. So they went to the university's call center. This is the place where they engage young students most of the time, and they're calling your alma mater, and they're asking for money. Now, surprisingly enough, they had a really hard time keeping employees. So about every 3 months, they would have a 100% turnover at this call center. So it was really important to them, well, how can we keep people engaged and doing this job? You can imagine what that would be like. So they divided the group into two segments, and they conducted this experiment. The one segment, of course, was the control group, received no treatment. And at the other segment, they tried various things. They tried having the manager come in, giving them pep talks, showing them more information about what happens at the end of the day with the recipients of the funds. Nothing was really working until the point where they brought in a young man who was a recipient of one of the scholarships that was made possible because of the calls and the money generated from this call center. And for 5 minutes, he stood in front of the group and spoke to them about what it meant in his life to receive that scholarship to the university and receive his education. And this was the result. 140% increase in time spent on the phone. So the employees trying harder. 200 to 400%, depending on when they measured it, increase in donations received. And the effect of that lasted for at least 3 months. Now, that's pretty effective. As a manager, you bring in someone for 5 minutes every 3 months if it's going to make that kind of a difference. So that's, again, what we're trying to accomplish here is to have that touch point between the donor and the organizations, and especially at the end of the day, the people who are affected by the charities that the CFC represents. So I'm going to turn the time over to Victoria, sorry, to talk a little bit more about the process.
All right, no, I'm afraid of the clicker now. I've seen everyone else.
This one on
Oh, look at that, first try. So let's talk about I'm going to talk about the process and the mechanics of the pilot. Who cared? There were 12 participating campaigns in the 2014 year that participated in this pilot. The pilot was approved, I think about May, is that right, Mary? Yeah, about May. And we reached out to some campaigns to see if they would participate. As you can see from the list of the 12, I would say various backgrounds on those campaigns in terms of who their audience, what their donor base was. But also an important piece on this was that we wanted to make sure that we included the two larger online giving mechanisms, and that would have been CFC Nexus and CFC Campaign Accelerator were the two giving mechanisms involved with the pilot. So we wanted to make sure that as we piloted this, that it could work on any system that was out there. And so these are the 12 campaigns that were chosen to participate in the pilot. I blew it. There we go.
click with the other.
It's very sensitive. Okay. So the pilot was approved. The participating charities were asked, the participating campaigns were asked if they would participate, I guess. And what they had to do was they had to get their LFCC buy-in on this, and then they had to go out to the charities within their campaign. So now they're approaching the local charities within their campaign and asking them to provide us with a statement, a thank you statement. Because what the pilot is about is that someone will go online, they'll give debit, credit card, e-check, and then once they make their gift, they will receive an email right after they make their gift with a thank you statement on it. And so again, we're trying to make that connection as Bruce was explaining. And so in order to have those thank you statements ready, we had to go out to all of those local charities, and then we also went out to national and international charities, and we asked them to provide us with a thank you statement. Those thank you statements were put into a database, and then those were the statements that we used for the auto responses that we sent out. It was some work. Let's be frank about this. So we received 4,400, I think a little over 4,400 thank you statements from charities, and all of them, we gave them the guidelines of what they could include, what they couldn't include. We gave them a character count, and they were supposed to abide by all of that. Well, all of you who do local charity applications know how much abiding goes on, right? So it was some proofing work that went on, a lot of proofing work that went on. I'm looking at Mandy, who works with my campaign, and she's like, yes, it was a lot of proofing work. We try to involve the 12 campaigns. We asked for volunteers from the 12 campaigns and asked them would they participate in helping to proof. Mandy divvied up the list and got it out to people and gave people deadlines, and we got things back. So we were getting help from the committee, from the 12 campaigns. Mandy and I were doing a lot of work. I distinctly remember emailing back and forth with Mary over a weekend when she was supposed to be off. So I know Mary was doing a lot of work on this. And then we really want to thank the CFC Nexus guys because they did a lot of proofing work as well. So we did all of the proofing work. We got everything ready to go. And it all came together kind of at once when that universal giving list was released. This was ready to go, and so it was like right around that first week in September when it kind of all came together. We were glad when that train, I guess, left the depot there. I want to show you an example what someone would receive. So if they gave online, remember this is for online giving only. So this is if they go into Nexus or they go into Campaign Accelerator, they give by debit, credit, or e-check. Not MyPay, not EEX, not any of those things, right? Debit, credit, or e-check only. And they would receive an They would receive an LFCC statement. So the 12, remember the 12 campaigns asked their LFCCs to provide a thank you acknowledgement. So they would receive an email that had an LFCC statement, thank you statement. And this is a sample one. And I'm not going to read it for you, but they received a sample one. And then they would receive, almost. There we go. And then they receive the charity care statement. And so this would be a sample charity thank you statement that they would have received. And so this would, hopefully, if it all worked correctly, it would pop right into their mailbox, because a lot of these, the e-giving systems, the online giving systems, you have to put your little email in there, your email address in there. As soon as you gave and you clicked, approve the gift or approve the pledge, this email is supposed to pop right back into your email box. And this is what you would have received, an LFCC statement and a charity statement. There was some work that also had to be done in I would say, making sure that everyone could receive those statements. A lot of our federal employees are on different networks. And so we found out, for instance, that overseas, the DoD networks were a little more restrictive, and they didn't automatically receive the statement. So we had to do some work on our end to make sure that those statements could be received on those DoD networks. It seemed to work stateside, but not so much overseas until we did some work. But we did manage to get it working by the time our campaign kicked off, so it all worked. It all came together in one way or the other. So that's the that's the mechanics of it. And I'm going to turn it back over to Bruce, and we'll take questions at the end.
I had it. Process. Can't get it to go. Feeling your pain, Keith. Yeah. No, that's the one right before this. There we go. Okay, so when we originally reached out to the charities to provide these statements, we collected 4,412. So roughly 21% of all charities in the entire campaign we were able to collect statements from. So there's some improvement, that we need to get more charities participating. But over 95% of those organizations were selected at least one time by a CFC contributor. So that gave us a total of 10,982 combined CFC Nexus or CFC Accelerator online pledges, and the results are that over 8,000 emails were sent with care statements back to donors. And in those over 8,000 emails that were sent, there were individual statements from charities which totaled 14,874 total thank you statements from charities to the donors in those 8,000 emails. So hopefully I haven't confused everybody with those numbers. But basically, a whole lot of people received a whole lot of thank you statements from charities. And then at the end, we wanted to have at least some way to try to measure the results of this. We did include a really short 3-question survey at the end of this email. And we got about 2% of our donors responding to that survey. The results are that the first question was, did you find the information from charities to be valuable? So the response to that was 71.5% of our survey respondents said, yes, this information was valuable. 24.5% said not one way or the other. They were neutral about it. And just 4% said, no, we did not find this information to be valuable. So the vast majority of people found that this information back from the charities was a valuable thing. The second question was, will you be more likely to give next year based on this information that you've received? So we found that from the results of this that 57, roughly 57% of respondents said neutral. I'm gonna give when I give, and this has really no effect. However, 40%, a full 40% of our respondents said that yes, I'm now more likely to give in the future. So you're looking at 97% of all respondents saying, yeah, this is either has a neutral or a positive effect on my likelihood of future giving. And only 3% saying no, it has a negative effect. Oops. Man, I cannot. Oh no, I got to the end. Can you restart it? I fail. Okay. Okay, I'm back. All right. Maybe you could help me
Now
with
you've
this.
messed mine up.
Okay,
there you go.
technology is not
There
our
you
friend today. Okay. Yeah, but it's not up here. Okay, so this next slide is just a real short slide with a few sample. The third question was basically what information would you like to receive from charities in the future? So there's just a few sample highlights of things that donors said back. There was a lot of them that said that no further information was needed beyond what was provided here. And then we got some of these statements back. So I'll let you just browse those for a second. Man. There's one final slide, and I'll just read it to you. Recommendations. Based on the results of the pilot, we do recommend continuing to expand upon the program in 2015. Obviously, adding more charities that participate in this. We want to streamline the process to, hey, thank you, make it even more clear. Maybe shorten that LFCC statement a little bit so we can get directly into the responses from the charities. Make it clear that we tried as hard as we could to make it clear to our donors that we did not release their name and contact information to the charities unless they specifically told us on the pledge form that they wanted us to do that, which would happen at a later time anyway. And then we need to obviously start this process a little sooner now, but we're well underway for this and spell out the benefits. We can see a day, hopefully in the near future, where we can add to this so that maybe individualized stories can be presented, pictures, links to embedded video, things like that that make it even more engaging for our CFC contributors in the future. So with that, we'd be happy to take any questions that you might have. Oh, I should mention, yeah, please go to the microphones. I should mention also that basically when it comes to cost, there was no added cost to participate, to roll this out. CFC Nexus and Accelerator worked with us and helped build this mechanism free of charge. So the only real cost was opportunity cost, what we may have been able to do with our time otherwise had we not been working on this. Kathy, you have a question?
Okay, Bruce. First of all, I think this is a great program, and I don't see any downsides to it. I just wondered why it was only credit, debit, and e-check versus payroll, because that's the majority of the donors that we get online or through payroll.
It was payroll too for those who were participated in CFC Nexus or accelerators. It just did not include MyPay or Employee Express.
Got it. Okay, and then if the donor checked that they did not want their name released, did they still get one of these?
Yes.
All right.
And then we tried to make it clear that we didn't release your name. This was a pre-provided statement from all charities, so that we just automatically sent it.
All right, if I'm a donor and I donate to 10 places, do I only get it from one charity saying something, or do I get it from all 10?
You get it from all 10 charities if all 10 charities provided a statement
Got it. Thank you.
advance. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. First comment is we need a microphone in the middle of the room, if we could. Real quick, I got 3 quick questions for you. The first one is, when will it be extended to MyPay and Employee Express, specifically for those campaigns that don't have the one-time online giving options?
Don't know. That's something that we have to work with OPM on to make that happen. My understanding is, it doesn't, it's fairly easy to roll out with a non-government program because they don't have to jump through the same hoops and everything. But so hopefully in the future, probably not this campaign year, but hopefully we'll be able to make it happen in the future for Employee Express and MyPay. But we'll be asking, we'll be in touch with our good friends here.
Yeah, second question real quick. You say the individual is going to get a response back from the charity itself and then a short LFCC message as well.
Yeah.
How is that going to work with universal giving, that if somebody from my campaign gives to a local charity in another campaign, will they receive the LFCC message from that campaign or theirs? The reason I ask is it may be confusing of who they're receiving the message from.
So it's one email, and the first part of the email is the LFCC statement, and then you scroll down, and then you begin to see the statements from the charities themselves. And the LFCC statement is from the campaign that you contributed through. So even if you donated to a charity, across the country, the LFCC statement would still be your local LFCC, and then that charity's particular care statement would follow.
Okay, and the last question is for consistency. How are you vetting affiliate or chapter organizations to make sure that those thank you messages are, I guess, consistent with the national one? American Heart Association, cancer societies like that.
Yeah,
if you have an affiliate, who's responsible for making sure that is in line with their national?
The federation the federation head is my understanding that is responsible for coordinating that. Do you have a, Victoria, can you speak to that?
I believe we approach the same way that you would for the charity application. So if it's the federation that usually filled out the charity application, we went to that federation and asked them for the thank you statements for those folks that belong to them. So just think of it, we use the same mechanism, the same system that is used for charity application. We didn't go outside of that.
All right, thanks.
Hey, Darrell Lester, United Way, Greater St. Louis. Pretty simple question. I just want to make sure I didn't miss the way that the statements, the charity statements were created. Are they given by random generator, or is it based upon the organizations that you actually made your contribution to? So when you receive the charity statement, is the charity statement coming from just the locations that I've given a donation to?
Right.
Or is it through a random generator?
No, it's whatever the designated charities were. Like if you make a pledge and you designate to 5 charities, you'll receive an LFCC statement from whatever campaign you pledged through. And if those 5 charities that you designate to provided thank you statements, you would receive 5 statements in that email as well.
Okay, so the statements were only, so if my charity did not give a statement, then they just missed that piece? Thank you.
Very, very good question, because we didn't cover that in the presentation. If a charity did not provide us with a thank you statement, so remember that we only had 4,400 thank you statements, right? This is through 12 campaigns, so you can imagine the number of requests that went out there. So there were some charities that did not provide a thank you statement, and if they did not provide a thank you statement, and this young man pledged to designate it to them, then what you would receive is an email with the LFCC, thank you statements from those charities that you designated to that did provide a thank you statement, and then a short statement saying charity XYZ chose not to provide a thank you statement. Okay. Okay, we have like 2 minutes left.
I just want
Go
to
ahead.
clarify something really fast. All local charities, regardless of whether they were within a campaign boundary that participated in this pilot, Mary sent an email to every local charity everywhere in the country requesting those thank you statements. So even if your campaign wasn't in this pilot, it could well be that your local charity, some of them provided statements to this pilot, and those were included if somebody, through universal giving from your campaign designated to a charity in my campaign that had provided that statement, they would get that. So regardless of which campaign you happen to be associated with.
Okay, Bev Arnold, Heart of Alabama.
Hi.
That was one of my questions because I know a lot of the charities in our area did get the request for the information and contacted us to say, what am I supposed to do with this? And so my question was, are the UG charities included in the response in your pilot, which apparently it was.
Yes.
Second, did you get any negative response from any donors saying, why are you sending me this information? Why are you responding to my donation? Because I know that we've, in the past, had like an automatic thank you go through our online donor pledges, and we did get some negative feedback from folks who didn't want us to contact them after they made their pledge. So did you get any negative feedback?
Not that came to me, directly emailed to me. There were just a really, really small number of respondents to the survey that were either unhappy with the message from the charity, like maybe they didn't think the charity was actually doing what the charity said they're now doing with the money, or they misunderstood that and thought that we had released their name when we had not.
Okay,
So,
and then my last one is, you said it took a lot of time to proof these inputs. Is that going to be part of the application process where the charity automatically includes a response statement in the future when they apply to be part of the campaign? And what is going to be the process when you have 30,000 charities that you have to now prove?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our hope, remember that the charity application process, the application has to be vetted through OMB. So to make it part of the official application process will take some doing, but my hope is that in the future we can automate that so that as they apply online at the end, whether it's required or not, probably not, they would have the optional opportunity then to just put in their thank you statement right there, and that would make things easier here in the future. But that's where we're hoping
Okay.
to get someday, and I don't.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce.